Hi, beautiful people. I just got back from Topaz and I want to show you this nice shirt that I got. It says never again. I know you're seeing it backwards. But I would also like to see something saying never forget, never again, because too many people seem to have amnesia about the past. I want to say I was humbled by this particular visit to this museum, and I learned a lot. And one thing I was completely unaware of, and that's why I'm sharing it, is that the edict, the unconstitutional edict that rounded up Japanese Americans only applied to a line that covered California, Oregon, and Washington. And not only that, the people in California, Oregon, and Washington did have two other options. One would be is you could go back to Japan, and the other was you could move further inland. I did not know that. So I'm going to pop up the first picture, and the reason for it is because I couldn't understand this man. But on the long 3-hour drive home, I think I've come to an understanding of him. The reason why I'm picking this gentleman is his two older sons chose to leave and go back to Japan. That in of itself is, I would love to know what happened to his sons. I'm sure I can dig in and find out. But he's clearly wealthy. And my first thought and my first reaction was, why didn't he sell his things and move inland? And then I finally understood. I understood this man. And I think with the way I am now, I would be much like this man. Because all of those children in this picture, they're Americans. They are Americans. And I think deep down inside, he was making a stand. So I hope you enjoy. This will be part 1 of probably 3. Now, this is something that everybody needs to think deeply about. Violations of constitutional rights. We had the Constitution to protect us in 1942. It didn't, because the will of the people wasn't behind it. And that's something to remember. In both war and peace, we must defend the civil liberties of all citizens and the equal protection of all people. Liberty and justice must be stronger than fear and racism. So they violated the First Amendment, freedom of religion, speech, or of the press. They violated freedom from unreasonable search and seizure, the Fourth Amendment. They also violated the Fifth Amendment, right of due process, life, liberty, property, and freedom from cruel and unusual punishment, the Eighth Amendment.
Homes that were made.
So this is where the latrine would be.
Yeah.
I wanted to show people this because that's fascinating that the bathrooms weren't stalls.
Yeah.
And then they had, you said like 4 female.
4 female.
And then 4
and then
male.
Over here on this side would have been the male.
And no, like, no privacy whatsoever.
Well, the government didn't provide anything.
But they probably
they
did. Yeah.
put up
With blankets and stuff. But
that they could scrounge.
that's messy. Okay, so he's telling us that we had, each block had 250 people. There was about 9,800 people total. And there was only 1 stall for 250 people?
No, there would have been 3 stalls.
Oh, 3 stalls for 200 people.
For half of that, because
Half
they had the
of
same
that. Oh.
for the men.
Oh my God.
So, you had to either wait or be digicil and try to take care of business early in the morning or late at night.
That's they already took away everything and then they Could take away their dignity too.
They tried.
Go with F. Does it go by last name or?
It goes by last name.
Okay, so. That's her family right there. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Look, it shows up on there. Oh my heavens. That brings it closer to home to actually see. I wonder how many. Oh, wow.
Sports. So everyone is encouraged.
What does that mean?
Detention pond and cistern, that's where their water was
Okay.
come from.
I just see the word detention. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh.
So up here is the quarters for the guards. They had between 80 and 160 servicemen at all times. This was where the hospital wing was, and the hospital was completely manned, almost completely manned by Japanese. The administration part, warehouses.
Wow.
And then they had a cemetery, but no one was buried in the cemetery. People died here, but the Japanese preferred to have their relatives who had died, what's the word when you burn them?
Cremated.
Cremated. And then when they went home after the war, they interred their...
I wouldn't want to be buried here either, though.
This is what a barrack looked like and the size of the different apartments.
So were they kept here for 3 years or more than 3 years?
Well, so when they were interred, they first went to a place called Tanforan, which is a racehorse track.
Uh-huh.
And some of them were put up in racehorse stalls that had been whitewashed and a lamp put in there, because Topaz didn't finish construction, or wasn't ready for habitation until about September 1942.
Uh-huh.
And they were gathered up April and May. So they may have spanned up to 6 months at Tanforan. Then they were put on a train from San Francisco to Salt Lake, then another train from Salt Lake to Delta, and then from Delta they got on buses, like school buses. And
Is that
shipped.
it's not that same train track that we,
Yeah.
it's that same train
Yeah.
track? We got to stop and film that.
Yeah,
That's now
that's
that it kind of,
San Pedro.
breaks my heart. That's the railroad.